Hello and welcome to Hot Money Technicals on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. This is the show which gets you a complete wrap of all the stocks that are buzzing in trade. I'm Darshan Mehta. Let's welcome our experts here. Analyst Amit Shah of India Bulls Ventures and Aditya Agarwala of Yes Security join us on the show. Thank you to all for joining me on the show. Before we go to our experts, let's go across to Yash Upadhyay, who has a chart on Apollo Tyres. Yash, what does the chart indicate?
Afternoon, Darshan. The charts are indicating a positive move for Apollo Tyres, and the indicator that we're using is the Bloomberg proprietary fear and greed indicator. It basically shows the relationship between the moving average of the true range, and it oscillates on a zero basis line. How do you interpret it? You basically go long when the indicator turns green, which is the case, and you go short when the indicator turns red. Following the move of the last 2-3 days, taking that into account, the indicator has turned green, and probably from these levels of about 236 odd levels, it could go up, is what the fear and greed indicator suggests.
What's the, if you backtest this data, and every time this changed from a greed to a fear and from fear to greed, how much % was made?
So on an average over the last 1 year, had you gone long when the indicator turned positive, it would have given you on an average returns of close to 5.5% over the next 10 days.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in. The first stock that we spoke about is Apollo Tyres. NS, are you seeing a bullish trend that's forming in Apollo Tyres?
It's extremely short term. As a trade, you can go ahead with bullishness. And it can jump up to around 245, 248 because earlier it has faced resistance at that area, and actually, that is also 200 DEMA. So I would book profits around 247 approximately.
247. So it's a short-term trade, 10 rupee upside. What about you, Amit? What are you seeing on Apollo Tyres?
I think I'll have to skip for now because my system has some issues.
Okay, what about you, Aditya?
I would agree. There is a short-term trade in Apollo Tyres. Immediate target for me would be around 242 to about 245 levels. There is resistance around those levels of 245 to about 242. If it takes out, then probably the move can stretch to levels of 255. But immediate trend is positive, and it can take the stock.
So you would accumulate at this level?
Yes, I would go ahead and accumulate at these levels. If it crosses above 242, I'll add on to the longs for targets of 250, 255 as well.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in on Apollo Tyres. Let's start with the first stock. NS Vidai has a bullish call on Rallis. NS, join me. We'll have the chart up here. What's the strategy? What is the indicator that you've used to get this?
Well, basically, if you see, Rallis has taken continuously support on this bottom trend line. Right now also it has made multiple bottoms on this trend line, and it is almost on the verge of today also it is trading a bit higher and looks like it can go up to 183. I would have preferred to buy on dips up to 155 and keep a stop loss at 153, and this is the trend line which I am looking at, which could act as a resistance. You can even call this as a triangle, huge falling triangle, and if it crosses 185, then we can have much higher targets of around 200, 205 approximately.
Okay, how soon do you see levels of 185 coming in?
This should happen in maybe 1 or 2 weeks only.
Okay, it's a short-term trade, and
short-term trade.
153 is your short-term target.
We would say 183 is my short-term target.
I'm sorry, stop loss.
And my stop loss is 153. And if it comes down for any reason up to 155, 158, I would prefer to buy there also.
Okay, so it's more of a positional trade that you are indicating on
but it should happen within 2 weeks maximum.
Maximum 2 weeks. And will it take resistance at this level, or do you expect that to also be broken?
I believe that this line will act as a very strong resistance.
There's a potential.
Once it crosses, maybe after some consolidation or some resistance, a big downward move from there, and then we can expect around 200, 205 also. So there could be more 10-20% upside from there.
Okay, so that's the potential. Thank you so much for that, Ines. What about you, Amit? What's your view on Rallis?
Yeah, I mean, see, the stock has been falling and the near-term trend is quite weak. Though broadly, if you look, it's still on a monthly chart. If you see, it's in a broader range, So I would wait for it to cross, 177, and only then I would place a bet on it with a stop below, 164. So once it sustains above 177, only then I'll take a buy call on.
Okay, fair enough. It's a hold and wait strategy. Aditya, what's your view on Rallis?
So for me also it's more of a wait strategy because stock is yet to break out of that resistance of 175 to about 177 zone, as Amit pointed out. The only factor which will compel me to get into a long trade is one, risk to reward is extremely in favor of going long, and second, I see good volume activity in the last few trading sessions. So from last week onwards, stock is seeing some good volume activity at the lower end of the range post correction. So there can be some accumulation that is going on in the stock, but probably I'll wait for a crossover above 175. That will be the trigger point for me. Above 175, I'll go ahead and buy the stock.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. NS, just any before we move on, just a question on rallies. Is there any trigger that you are seeing that could propel the stock?
Probably I would wait for once. If you want to look at momentum, it should happen above 173.
Okay.
So,
and is there any trigger there?
Yeah, there is lots of volume actually. There is, I believe, smart money is accumulating this stock. So, last few days actually the delivery volume is also very good.
Okay, so delivery volumes and volumes is something that NS has saying probably above 175 is something that our guests do indicate that they will bet on. Buy on dips is something that NS is saying, but he's a little early. That's probably one of the strategies, but he's betting that it could go up. But the trend certainly seems to be on the bullish side for rallies. Next is Dewan Housing Finance, and Amit has a chart on it. Obviously, of late, NBFCs have started rallying. Dewan Housing Finance is up 6 rupees. It's managed to go above the 6,200 level. What's the strategy that you're using? What's the chart that you're using?
Sure. So this is the monthly chart of Dewan Housing, and it's got a long history. This probably is not the I guess the exponential moving average. Otherwise, if you see right from the start, Dewan Housing has been taking supports all the time near its 200 moving averages, and has rallied and made a fresh new high. So this is it's been almost 4 or 5 times on a monthly scale that the stock has taken good support around its 200 monthly moving average and has made a fresh new high. Yes, Dewan Housing has been in the news of late and has fallen very, very sharply. So of course the near-term trend is weak, but the way I see it is the near-term downward momentum is slowing down.
Okay.
So, and we are at historical very, very important support zones. So my sense is probably the worst could be over. I wouldn't say worst is over, but probably the worst could be over. Again, this entire month candle not making a lower low itself suggests that the downward selling is ebbing. Coupled with that, when you're near the historical very, very strong support zones, I think this one calls for a buy. The risk reward is excellent here. If the trade works out, one can make disproportionate kind of returns in this stock.
So it's at 212 right now. What's the stop loss? What's the target?
Yeah, so the near-term stop loss is 190.
Okay.
The first zone that I'm seeing for the stock is 245, but that's just near the last swing high is the testing zone. But overall, I see if this trade works out, this should cross even 300. So the returns here could be quite disproportionate and very attractive.
So I believe this is close to 190. This is where your stop loss is.
Yes.
If it crosses below, would you go short on the counter?
No,
or
so till it does not breach 176 on the downside, I would not go short on the counter.
Yeah. So this level is probably 176.
Yeah. So for a more positional guy, even he can have a stop loss of 175. For the near term, one can for a better risk reward, one can have a stop loss of 190. But the view is on the positive side.
Okay, so that's a positive view that's coming in on Dewan Housing. Aditya, do you agree? Would you buy Dewan Housing at this level?
It's a risky trade, honestly. Stock is getting into a consolidation, no doubt about that. Post a sharp fall, stock is right now consolidating in a narrow zone. So probably I'll wait for the stock to cross 225, 220 zone. That will give a little fillip to the stock to move a little higher, and I would see little volume activity. Volumes are completely missing in the consolidation right now, which generally happens. Volumes are generally thin in consolidation. The moment it breaks, probably if it breaks down from the lower end of the consolidation, which is around 200 to about 195 zone, stock can start fresh downward trajectory. But if it needs to cross and close above 225 and some volume activity should be visible for me, then I will be inclined to get into a long trade in Dewan Housing Finance. Otherwise, I'll avoid at current levels.
Okay, avoid at current level. NS, what's your view?
For extreme short term, for trading purposes, you can go long up to like if it crosses 215, that is one resistance, which is the current resistance, just 2 rupees away, and above that it can go up to 230ish. And on the dips, as Amit has said, I would prefer to buy on dips rather than means on the breakout.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in on Dewan Housing Finance. Strict stop loss and the potential can be on the higher side is something that our guests say. The next stock that we want to talk about is TTK Prestige. Aditya has a call on it, so let's pull up the chart of TTK Prestige. What's you're buying it on basis of RSI? What's the chart about?
Along with RSI, Darshan, it's broken out from an ascending triangle pattern in trade yesterday. Though the volumes are slightly thin in TTK Prestige, but yesterday it broke out on fairly decent volumes. The volumes were high in TTK Prestige, and today it's more of a consolidation post a breakout that the stock is witnessing. So it generally happens that post a breakout stock goes into 1 or 2 consolidation, and then it resumes its upward trajectory. So for me, it's shown a very good sign, positive sign. So from about September, August last year onwards, stock went into a narrow consolidation zone, and recently we saw higher highs in the stock and the higher lows in the stock, and the highs were the same. So it made a ascending triangle pattern in trade yesterday. It broke out beautifully from that pattern. Today it's more of a consolidation, so it gives me a good entry point as well. So I'll go ahead and buy TTK Prestige at current levels. Probably I'm looking at a target of 78.50. Put a stop somewhere around these consolidation zone lows, which is 69.50. Along with that, if I take a look at the RSI has managed to hold onto the lower end of the bull zone, which is around 50, and it's just on the verge of a breakout from that 60. So a breakout above 60 will trigger the up move in TTK Prestige to levels of 78.50 and 8,000 as well.
Okay, but 2 questions. How are you placing the risk reward? Because your upside potential is 400 and your stop loss is also 400.
So it's 1-to-1 risk to reward, because because of the thin volume activity in the stock generally tends to be volatile. And there are sharp moves that we see in the stock. That is why I've kept a risk to reward of 1:1 in the stock. But yes, looking at the chart pattern and the development, it looks like the stock will resume its upward trajectory.
Until what time would you buy at this level, or would you? I
will buy at these levels because yes, I would accumulate today because it's
at lower levels.
Lower levels, yes, I can go ahead and accumulate till it breaks these support levels of 69.50. Till the time it holds on to these levels of 69.50, I will accumulate.
And 7,800, how soon do you expect that?
Probably a couple of trading, or probably 1 week time horizon, stock can test levels of 78.50 as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if it crosses that and goes to previous highs of somewhere around 8,500 as well.
Okay, many thanks for that. We'll watch out for TTK Prestige. TTK Prestige, Amit, at 7,400, would you venture a bet?
Yes, I would be also positive on the stock. It's breaching. Yesterday's closing was also on a bullish note, and it's coming out of its consolidation. So yes, 7,800 to 8,000 is something what I'm eyeing for.
Okay, pretty much the second thumbs up from you, NS.
Yeah, actually it is a very good breakout. You can say it's a very higher tops, higher bottoms are being formed there. Stock is taking support at 18 DEMA and has been sustaining there continuously for last 1.5 months. So the stock has potential to go even up to the previous high, which could be 8,800 if it keeps on staying above 7,200.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in on TTK Prestige. It's a consensus thumbs up from all 3 of our guests on the counter. Let's move on to the second round. Fidai has a buy strategy on HOEC this time around. Let's pull up the chart. NS, what's your view? You need to explain the chart. What makes you bullish? What's the technical parameters that you've used?
Well, I have used RSI also, and I have used multiple supports are happening here. It's in a channel kind of formation here, and if you see, it has taken again multiple supports. The stock has taken exactly support at that level. Though markets were very volatile, it stood its ground over there, and I believe it's a very small short-term trade. It can go up to 130 to 133, though today it is also a bit higher, and I would have preferred to buy around up to this trend line. Okay, so if it comes here, I would be buying in 2 tranches, one at the current level and one near 115. Okay, and I would like to keep my stop loss around 111, and I expect the target to be around 130 to 133. And if it gives a breakout, then we have huge potential. It can go all the way up to the top of the channel probably.
Okay, so it's a more of a positional trade that you're saying?
Right now, I would like to take a trade as a short-term, extremely short-term trade, around 1 or 2 weeks, and let's see after that. Maybe I expect a bit of means downside from this resistance line around 133. If that is crossed with good volumes and can sustain above that trend line, then we can expect in maybe positionally it can go all the way up to 170 although.
Okay, so it's a positional bull call that's coming in on HOEC. We'll ask our other guests what they believe on it. Amit, HOEC, would you venture a bet on HOEC?
Yeah, more of a sideways trend with the near term drifting downwards. So yes, some pullback after yesterday's move can happen towards 127, 130 kind of a zone. But I'm not too positive, though not too negative as well. I think this is more of a sideways stock as of now.
Okay, Aditya, HOEC?
I will take a trade above 125. Stock is approaching 125 resistance, is just 2 rupees away. So for me, it will trigger an up move above 125, and the momentum can increase in that point of time. Till 125 is taken out, probably I'll wait for a fresh trade. Okay,
wait straight till this thing. So it's a consensus view that's coming in. The chart looks good, but two of our guests would buy it at a stage which is much higher. The next stock we want to talk about is Biocon, and there is a buy call by Amit on Biocon. Let's pull up the chart. What's the parameter that you've used here? What's the technical indicator?
Sure. So this is the an intraday chart with many days of history. So what we are seeing here is a consolidation breakout happening for Biocon. Also on the daily charts, if you see, the stock has been consistently taking support and has been bouncing back from its 200 EMA. Along with that, there's a good head and shoulder breakout as well. As you can see, this is a head and shoulder breakout also happening here. So stock has been consolidating for a while now, and now it's trying to move out of its consolidation range. So the near-term momentum is catching up with the broader time frame. So continue to remain positive on the stock.
Okay, so that's the view. What's the target stop loss and what's the timeline that this trade would happen?
Sure. So this is a short-term trade, and probably 1 week to 10 sessions is something in which I'm eyeing this move to happen. Once the stock generally, if the move is true after the consolidation, the move generally tends to happen very fast. So I think it should happen probably within a week or so. The target is between 670 to 680 on this one, with the stop loss of 618.
Okay, so that's a positive view that's coming in on Biocon short-term move. Thank you so much for that. Aditya, Biocon, what should one do?
I would agree with Amit. After consolidation, stock has broken out on the daily chart. It's broken out from a triangle pattern. So there is upside momentum in the stock, no doubt about that. My first target would be around 650. The next target could be 680 as well. So I would go ahead and buy Biocon at current levels.
At current levels
yes,
also. And what's your stop loss that you would keep?
I'll put a stop close to about 620. That's a decent stop. And for a target of 650, 680.
Okay, pretty much similar to what Amit said. NS, Biocon?
Yeah, absolutely agree with both the participants here, and I believe the stock has a very good potential to go up to 670 and 680ish.
Okay.
And if it crosses 690, then you can even expect 720.
And what's the stop loss that you would keep?
The stop loss would be something around 618 approximately.
Okay, so I think it's a consensus call that's coming in. 618 to 620 seems to be the potential stop loss that our guests have recommended, and 680 type of targets, 680, 690 is pretty much the consensus target that our guests are talking about. The second last stock of the day, which we will discuss before Yash comes in with his stock, is TVS Motors. Aditya, we'll have the chart for you. Let's pull up the chart and what's the technical parameter that you've used, and what's the view on TVS?
So this is the weekly chart of TVS Motors. Stock has broken out in trade today from a falling wedge pattern. A falling wedge is basically when two lines converge and prices make lower high and lower low. So it's formed falling wedge pattern, and in trade today stock has broken out from that falling wedge pattern.
Okay.
On the daily chart, stock has broken out from a triangle pattern. This is a weekly chart. On the daily chart, stock has broken out from a triangle pattern, and volumes are extremely high. So it's broken out on a healthy volumes in trade today. So this tells me that the stock is poised towards an upward momentum. It faces slight resistance close to about 677, 678. It happens to be this resistance line. So if it manages to trade above 677, probably 678, 667, 668, then probably stock can head higher to about 610 levels as well. So I will closely watch and take a trade at around 562, 563 zones, and wait for the stock to cross this resistance of 566, 567, and add on to the longs for targets of 610.
566, 67 is on a closing basis, on a what basis?
Probably on an intraday basis also. If it crosses on the daily chart, it happens to be the 200 DMA. On the weekly chart, it is this consolidation upper end of the zone, 567. So if it crosses above that on an intraday basis also, I'll add on to the longs for targets of 600.
What's the aggressive level at which this counter can actually propel itself higher?
So
level?
if it starts to trade above 567, which is the probably high of today, it's just moving higher. There's momentum in two-wheeler space as well, so it just made a high of 567, and from there it's just cooled off a little bit. So the trigger level will be 567. The moment it starts to trade above 567, it will propel the stock higher to about 610 and probably even higher to 650 levels as well.
Okay, so it's a bullish call. Thank you so much for that, Aditya. NS, TVS Motors, are your charts also indicating a long?
Yeah, it is also indicating a long. Today also it has actually given a breakout and has been just sustaining below the trend line resistance, and there is a small resistance of 200 DEMA around 574. So it needs to cross 565, 574, 575. You can say that 10 rupee band. If it's able to do that, then you can expect a target of 604 or even much higher, around 620ish also.
Okay, so positive view coming in. Third thumbs up, Amit.
Yeah, quite positive on it. Actually, what it's doing is it has made a nice base for itself after the correction that we have seen from almost 800 kind of levels, So actually the trend seems to be reversing. It has given a breakout with good volumes. I think even there's a sector push for the stock. Even Hero Moto also is doing well. I think yes, a move towards 600, 610 should be very much possible.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. Aditya, is TVS the strongest among the two-wheelers at this point?
Yes, I will play TVS strongest.
The reason I'm asking is over the past few days we've seen Hero and Bajaj also start
move up. Absolutely right. But why I'm picking TVS is because it's given a good consolidation breakout in trade today, and volumes are extremely high in the breakout that we're witnessing in trade today. So that tells me that I'll pick TVS above Bajaj and Hero Moto. Though they both, all the three stocks are showing positive trajectory, but TVS for me will be the pick number one.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in. Consensus, 3 thumbs up that are coming in on TVS Motors. And before we end, Yash Upadhyay again joins us with a different chart. It's Pidilite. What's the chart indicating, Yash?
Afternoon, Darshan, once again, and it's a close call at this point, and we're using the trender indicator. Now, it isn't a buy or a sell call, but the trender line is very close, or in fact within 1 percentage point of where the stock price is. So watch out for these levels. The green line over here, as you could see, that is the trender line, and this right here is today's candle. Today's candle. Now it is within the 1% gap from the trender line, and should it manage to close below this level, the trender indicator would flip its color to red. So watch out for these levels. Should it manage to close lower, well, you can expect a slide in Pidilite from these current levels of about 1100, 1120.
Okay, so that's the trender indicating, and if you see the chart, you can clearly see that once the red happens, the fall is immense. We've seen it twice here and there, once in June and once in October. So just to and if you did this strategy earlier, if you do a past record of it, what's the average hit rate that you have?
So on an average, if and when the indicator turns negative and you went short, and all 6 of the times that it has done in the last 1 year, it would have given you positive returns on an average of 4.5%. So from these levels, a potential slide of 40-50 rupees is likely. It is on the cards should it manage to close below the trender line, which is, by the way, trading at about 1006. So that is where the trender line is. So watch out for that.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. Thanks so much for that, Yash. NS, it's a strategy which has not happened. So they're saying it's very close to the trender turning opposite. Are any other charts that you're seeing does indicate that there could be potential weakness in Pidilite?
I would say I would be bearish on if it closes below 1100.
Okay.
Till then, I would like to hold this position.
As a long or
as a long.
As a long. What about you, Amit?
Yeah, so see, basically just a few days back it has made a doji near its all-time highs. So for as of now, we may consider that it probably may So 1195 is the sort of a double top. You cannot say exactly a double top. It's yet to happen. But yes, some sort of a trading move on the downside can happen. But I don't think the structure is still very, very positive. And my sense is after some maybe 3 to 5% of correction, again this stock will breach and is likely to breach its 1195 on the upside.
Okay, and Aditya, what's your view?
So I would agree with the chart that Yash pointed out. Below 1100, definitely there's a short trade in the stock. Below 1100, stock can slide all the way down to about 1020 levels. On the upside, 1195 is acting as a stiff resistance. So it is preempting, but I think the stock is making an inverted head and shoulders pattern on the weekly chart, and the right shoulder will be around 1020. So below 1100, stock can slide all the way down to 1020, and from there stock can take out 1195. So it's made kind of a triple top around 1195 levels. It's failed to cross that. So 1100 will be the crucial level to watch out for. If it starts to trade below 1100, yes, go short.
Okay, so that's the view. We've had 8 stocks that are being discussed right now. Before we end, as we do, we'll ask our guests what they believe of the market. Aditya, 10,650 on the Nifty. If someone wants to take a strategy right now at this point of time, he wants to make what should he do? Should he long, should he short, or should he stay away?
Probably go long on mild dips. Stock markets have bounced back around 270, 300 points from yesterday's low. There's a long trade definitely in the offing. Probably as markets can test levels of 10,750 on the upside. From there, markets can slide again back lower. But there's a 100-point upside which is still there in the market. But I'll take a long trade on minor dips of 30-40 points. Put a stop close to about 10,500 and go long for targets of 10,750.
Okay, go long is something that Aditya is saying. What about you, Amit? At this point of time?
I would agree. This is definitely buy on dips market. So the same kind of a zone, 11,700, 750 should be the level from a trading perspective. So buy on dips is a strategy. Yesterday's move was more of a reversal move, I would say. So if that level is not breached in the next consolidation phase, my sense is we'll probably even breach the recent 10,950 kind of a zone, probably towards 11,200 on the upside. So that sure remains a possibility.
Okay, the second guest also believes that it's a long for the market. Dennis, what about you?
Well, I would right now stay away at this moment, because the upside is very limited around, as both have pointed out, around 700, 750. So that's the range where it will face lots of resistance. Once that resistance is taken out, probably it needs to consolidate. So we'll have to wait over there and let's watch rather than jump the gun right now.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in. Two of our guests are saying that it's a bullish market. NS has the view that there could be more potential resistance coming in. He'll wait before a certain level is breached on the Nifty. But with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of Hot Money. NS, Amit, Aditya, thank you so much for coming into the studio for this show. Ask BQ comes up next. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.